Okay, she's here.
Okay, who are we connected to?
This seems like partial higher self and partial ego.
Okay, which dimensional frequency is the higher self in?
The higher self is in 5, 5th.
Oh, okay, so it's a light being, basically.
Positive polarity, yes.
Positive polarity, light being. What the hell are you doing with reptilians? What was that all about?
I was part of a contract, my family's contract. I was the gift as part of their contract.
But you have free will, and you still chose to abide by the contract that was not yours?
Young and silly, I suppose. Always wanting to do the right thing. Highly programmed, I guess you might say. I was afraid. Mom said that if I were to upset this very delicate balance, that I would be the cause of a lot of pain and suffering in my family. Mom said, "Do you want your father to be hurt? Do you want his name stomped into the ground?" I understand that I had a lot of healing to do at the time. I understand this now, but I was very naive. I believe word for word everything my parents told me. I was conditioned from the start. I felt that everything was on my shoulders, that it was my job to ensure their well being, that everything is my fault, my burden.
Was this a playing out of your free will violation?
Yes, I suppose you can call it an act of karma. Even though, as your wife, is it? She said I was in the 5th dimension. Well, you know that everything is in all dimensions, yes, but my free will violation is in the 7th. And what my mother, you would say, said to me was what I had said to others, but in a different energy, in a different time.
So you manipulated someone to give up their energy power for someone else.
For selfish reasons, yes.
It must have been a high level of fear entering a reptilian den like that. What was it like?
It was no more than the fear that I felt in my own home. I'd always been surrounded by that energy. Always. So it was quite familiar to me. I know exactly how to manipulate them, to get them to look the other way, to get them to leave me alone for a bit, to allow them to trust me just enough so I can have that small bit of freedom to myself. Sometimes I felt as if my own mind was being tapped, but they were always listening. I had to be careful what I wrote down. I had to be careful who I spoke to. I had to be careful that my prayers weren't said aloud.
Well, they're using 4D technology, right?
That I was not privy to at the time. I was kept in much of the dark as there was much distrust. I had to constantly prove myself that I didn't wish any harm upon them. I wasn't their enemy. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. But of course, I also had what I wanted to do, and that wasn't exactly what they wanted me to do.
So you came from a home that was primarily lower astral service to self entities? Were they reptilians themselves?
I would say yes. I had to pause for a moment, as that would strike quite a chord in the heart of my ego.
Why is that?
To think of your own mom and dad as being a negative
Oh,
polarity.
they're just flesh suits. They're not. They don't. They're not connected to you in 5D.
I understand this. This is why I say my ego.
Right. Gotcha. So you got good at manipulating reptile energy.
I was once reptilian myself, not in that current incarnation, so I understood them very well.
And did they want you because they wanted to destroy a light?
No, I was just a pawn. So naive I was. I thought I could bridge a gap between the people and the monarchy, that we could work together, that we could create something beautiful for my country, and that other countries around the world would be able to see what we've created with our people, that it wasn't a class of servants and the upper class, the royal class, the ruling class, but that we were working as one, and that yes, there would still be a ruling class, but that ruling class was dictated and governed by its people. That's what I was hoping to do, not understanding that they wanted me to look like this light to everyone. So, yes, they allowed me to do what I wanted to do. Yes, I wanted to help people. I wanted to show that we could all work together, that there was no division between classes or colors of skin. Absolutely no division. But they wanted me to be the smiling face, the cherub, the happy look of the monarchy. And that if people trusted me, then yes, they could trust the monarchy. This benefited them greatly, so that they could do things without my knowing to the people, slowly, over time. So I thought that I had fought my way to a place of recognition, that wow, they're allowing me to work with the people, and I'm doing so much great work, not understanding that that was all part of the plan. I was meant to look like, well, I felt like such a fool.
So at the time, your ego was unaware that the monarchy was pure, unadulterated evil.
I knew what they were capable of, but I felt I thought I could do something.
Okay. When did you wake up to the realization that they were pure evil, and how?
My youngest son, Harry, spoke to me about some things he'd overheard his brother say. And the things his brother said were things that I don't think any mother would want their child to be privy to. Such darkness. And it was a light bulb moment that a child had to tell me, Mom, you've been so blind.
Was it sexual depravity?
There was a bit of that, but also what he witnessed them doing, which I will not state.
I can imagine. So,
And these were my children. I don't care if they were royalty. These were my boys. They wanted to taint my boys.
are your boys reptilian?
Not Harry. Harold. my light. I failed them.
I would say you failed yourself, not them. You failed yourself. You didn't stand up in your power. You let other people take your power from you.
I know this. And once I figured it out, and in all my rage, not knowing my place, I spoke my mind to Charles. I let him have it. And then I was gone.
How long after you spoke out did it take for them to kill you?
Roughly 6 months, hoping I'd forget about it, forget about what he said.
He said he'd kill you?
He said if I could, I'd chop that pretty head of yours right off your body.
So he planned and plotted and schemed for 6 months to make a scenario that looked like he wasn't involved.
Yes.
So they determined that you could no longer be the face of their organization, so they got rid of you. Is that
It worked to their benefit as well. A nation grieving for the woman they love so much. Distraction of the biggest kind, not only for the country, but for the world. I was a part of their plan, and I didn't know it. Not until it was too late. That all the good I was doing, just a part of their plan. My death, it was always part of their plan. I just moved up the time frame.
in speaking out to Charles, did you violate your contract with them?
I would say so. I said I was going to tell the people myself. I wanted every news channel to know exactly what goes on in this house
You can say that, but
and
until
what you did to my boys.
right. So you can say that, but until you've actually done it, you haven't violated the contract, no?
I suppose not.
Did they violate your free will?
I didn't want to die.
Have they been punished for violating your free will, or will they be?
Perhaps when they pass. I hear my mother-in-law is right where she should be these days.
Hell.
You know there is no real hell.
Right, she's created a hell for herself in 4D, right?
Yes. And if you see happiness within me at the moment, this is my ego.
Right, we don't wish that on anyone. We want learning for all. But that's when you go down that dark path, that's how you learn, is through this evil energy. Did you reincarnate?
No.
You went back to 5D
Yes.
and you're staying there?
For the time being, I have a lot to learn.
Are you working on your free will violation?
Yes.
Are you learning to stand in your power and not listen to the machinations of evil reptilians?
A soul always stands in its power. It's getting the vessel to listen to you.
Yes, the human part is a little stubborn. Man, so they brought in all the Cabal members, Elton John, to help mourn you. There's a big show full of Cabal.
What a circus.
What a circus. Were you having an affair with Dodie, was his name?
I wouldn't say I've ever had any affairs, but I did keep friends and companions.
So there was
More
no.
Hollywood gossip, as you would say in the West. Any way to make my life salacious, to sell another newspaper or news story. always trying to paint me in a particular light. Although, yes, I try to help many people, I don't think many of you could get past the tabloids and the news stories to really ever see who I really was and how I grew. Instead, I was always portrayed as this quiet, fragile woman that, yes, maybe I did some good here and there, but I guarantee you I was not fragile. I had my own plots and schemes, and I would have gladly given up my crown for it. And I guess I say I would have died for it, and I did.
What's the energy surrounding Harry? What's the future look like for him? What energy is he in right now?
All children change. He's not so much the boy I left behind, but he is his own man now, raised in that household, raised by Charles. And although he may go along with what they want, I feel he still retains some of his mother inside of him. And I feel like he's waiting for his time. But at the same time, I feel he's sometimes misguided by his own ego, easily manipulated by a strong household of egos. So he might be quite confusing to many, where oftentimes his ego does lead him to do quite a many, what you might say, negative polarity things. But there's also good in his heart. He does have a soul. And I know that his soul is trying to get him to hear it. And sometimes he does. Seems like it's a back and forth with him. But I have faith in Harry.
Is he service to self or others?
He's a service to others, pretending to be service to self. And this is what causes much of his misery and anxiety. He's trying to be somebody he's not.
So in order to fit in with his family, he has to put on a mask.
Well, he doesn't want to die.
Well, that would be another violation, no? Or does he have contracts?
They were born into contracts.
Oof. I don't think that's accurate. You can't be born into a contract unless he made the contract pre-incarnation. Is that what you mean?
Yes and no. There's pre-incarnation contracts when you have a particular mission in mind or several missions. But also part of my contract was to bear children for them. Them being a part of that contract.
They're
not
sovereign
quite
beings.
Understanding what that meant.
But they're sovereign beings who have to agree to the contract themselves, no?
They're very tricky in getting you to agree in ways that you don't know that you're agreeing to a contract. This is what my own parents did to me. They made a contract, offered me up as part of that contract. Me consenting to that contract, not understanding I consented to that contract. Their form of consent was that I elected to become married into the family. I could have said no. I could have run away. Yes, I had free will in that. So I guess you could say it was a coercion. Perhaps, maybe not so much they are contracts, but coercions, getting you to sign a contract.
So if you take anything from them, you have entered into a contract.
You were watching something last night, a television show about always having to give something for getting something.
Right.
That's how they work. There is nothing given from your heart because there is no heart.
Everything's transactional.
It's all transaction. This is why there's so much mistrust. There is no seeing or feeling with the heart. They don't trust anyone. They barely trust themselves.
Are they dying now?
There is a substance that has become harder and harder to obtain.
Adrenochrome.
Yes. It's often referred to as absinthe, which is a real alcohol. But this is not alcohol that they are drinking. And it's been in short supply around the world. So many who relied on this absinthe are aging off this planet.
Tom Hanks is deteriorating fast, isn't he? That's just a clone, though, isn't it?
Many of your actors and actresses are clones, yes.
They never considered cloning you and replacing you?
There would be no purpose. They got what they needed. There were certain things that they needed to set in motion while I was off on my missions, trying to be the face of the family. And there were certain things they did behind the scenes during the morning of my death. And so those events were needed to just keep me alive. Was not part of the plan. It never was. It was planned before I even married into the family that she was going to die. I was going to
Right.
die.
You were a sacrifice from the beginning.
It's part of their ritual, yes.
What kind of evil parents would offer their child? Well, I guess they're evil, aren't they? Well, I'm sure that was hard for you to speak on, but we really do appreciate you coming here and speaking with us and bearing your soul and speaking about the difficult things.
I do want to perhaps just set the record straight in a
Please.
way. Although, yes, there were these contracts. Although, yes, what might seem as the negative polarity can be quite crafty. They're no stronger than you. It's just the perception. What happened to me was part of contracts that I had made because I didn't listen to my own heart, my own intuition. It got me in trouble. If you are listening to your intuition, there's no wool they can pull over your eyes, no power they have over you. I don't care how scary these beings may seem, or how much money they have, or the ability to kill another human being, because there's always an equally powerful light. They cannot make life. And the light is equally as crafty. So please, do not become discouraged. Do not fear them. Do not let them control you. You are the king and queen of your own vessel. Act like it.
Wow. Well, I can honestly say I've never been afraid of any of these shitheads. I mean, they're a joke.
Where did some go?
What is there to be afraid of? They're full of fear, full of worry and doubt.
Whoa.
Don't be afraid of them.
Oh my gosh.
They're pathetic.
Whew.
I just see them as pathetic. I don't see them as something to fear. They're just so sad.
They need a hug.
They need a hug so desperately.
Oh my goodness.
How was that? You got a little. Well, she got a little emotional.
Yeah,
there.
she did. I'm like, what was happening? Why are we crying? Why are we crying? Yeah, I guess it really was half and half. That was it's like a whole lot of ego, but there's a whole lot of higher self too. So it was back and forth. But I don't know. It's not an energy that made me feel tired at all or anything. I felt it was. She is a light energy.
Yeah.
That was interesting. That was. I don't know. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, is she going to come out saying that she's like, was a reptilian this whole time? You know, was there some devious stuff? But it was interesting.
I mean, it's hard to blame her for making such a huge mistake at 18 years old or 19 or however old she was.
But it seems like with a lot of these contracts, like with people in Hollywood or, you know, royal family or whatever, they get them young.
Oh, thank you, Ruby Slippers. She gave $50.
Oh my goodness! Thank you.
John says they're gonna come for me.
Oh my gosh! Wow,
I'll be ready, John.
Thank you.
I'll be ready. Don't worry.
Karen said she seemed pure and honest and compassionate and a very loving mother. Yeah, that was something I felt like just wow, like it was like I was taken to the moment, like when her son is trying to tell her something. It seemed like he was trying to tell her for a while, but in a way where, I mean, he was old enough to know that maybe some of those people weren't nice people in the house, that he knew that he had to be careful with how he spoke and who was listening. And so it was like she felt it was like this hit over the head, like, oh my gosh, like my son is telling me this, like, and it wasn't that she didn't know, it was that she didn't want to know.
Right.
So that she was just kept trying to turn a blind eye, kept thinking, okay, well, they're doing what they're doing, but I'm going to continue trying to help people and I'm going to continue to help bridge the gap. And that's why she said she felt so naive, was that she was doing that thinking that was of her own volition, like she came up with that plan herself, not knowing that they knew that she was going to do that. And that was all part of their plan. And she was like, oh, wow. Wow.
Well, a lot to learn from. We got to learn from her mistakes and her successes. So always follow that intuition. Ignore that ego as much as humanly possible. And just go towards your light, your heart.
Yeah. Like she said, you guys are your own sovereign beings. You're your own king and queen. Nobody can rule you or tell you what to do unless you allow them to. So, well, that was wonderful energy.